So in this commentary, I kind of want to talk about the subject of OP or overpowered and kind of what it means in my opinion. And I'll start off by talking about the gameplay, which is Uncharted 2, and you'll see me using the FAL. And this is post 1.06, after the FAL's rate of fire kind of got nerfed, and some people would say the FAL was overpowered prior to the nerf, and in my opinion it wasn't overpowered. Was it the best weapon in the game? Definitely, but that does not mean it was overpowered. And that's kind of the big message I kind of want to get across with this video, which is just because something is the best does not mean it's overpowered. And if something is overpowered, that means it's the best, and then some and beyond. And it probably tilts the balance of the game in quite a few ways. So let's start off by talking about some of the attributes of the FAL in Uncharted 2. It's a burst fire weapon. It has a pretty solid damage output because of this. Burst fire weapons usually have high damage. It has fairly low recoil, and these all are kind of positive things, but you have to keep in mind it can't be sprayed like the AK or the M9, and it can't really be hip fired. And that is a pretty big disadvantage right off the bat. In terms of gameplay wise, it's basically a weapon you kind of have to aim, and it can't really be hip fire per se, which is a huge detriment to the weapon. Now some of you might be saying, oh well, all the biggest tryhards or the competitive players were using it. Does that mean it was the best? In my opinion, no. At a certain level, yeah, it was probably the best weapon in the game. But people are pretty quick to kind of judge something if, let's say, the biggest tryhards are using it or the competitive players are all using it, for example. And that kind of just comes into the fact that when you're playing at that level, you're gonna want to pick your best option. And this is true in just about anything. When you're given options, you're gonna pick what's the best, right? I mean, that's perfectly normal, right? You're gonna want to compete when you're playing a competitive level. You're gonna want the best weapon, the best loadout, the best fighting character, whatever. And so a lot of the competitive players in Uncharted 2 would use the FAL. Does that mean it was overpowered though? In my opinion, no. I'll give you an example of something that was overpowered in the context of Uncharted, which is the FAL SS in Uncharted 3, which is definitely overpowered, and I don't think many people would dispute this. So what makes the FAL SS overpowered versus the FAL in Uncharted 2 prior to its nerf? Well, here's kind of my argument with something's overpowered. When something's overpowered, it kind of breaks the barrier of skill and, let's say, like, less skilled. If you gave someone the FAL SS prior to the nerf in Uncharted 3, the FAL SS, whatever, you would immediately see improvement in their ability to kill people that are maybe better than them, or just in general, like, an improvement of, like, I don't know, performance. Whereas the FAL in Uncharted 2, I never really saw that. I never really saw, like, let's say some bad player magically pick up the FAL and, like, instantly improve. Why? Because it wasn't overpowered, in my opinion. I mean, was it the best weapon? I mean, at a certain level, definitely, but whereas the FAL SS in Uncharted 3, people would instantly pick it up and instantly drop people. I didn't really see that in Uncharted 2 with the FAL. I mean, yes, given to the highest level players in Uncharted 2, the FAL was the best weapon. But like I said, this is the best option, this is normal. And you'll see this in just about any game. People always gravitate towards their best option. But when something's overpowered, for example, like the FAL SS on Uncharted 3, it breaks that like little gap between like skilled players and not so skilled players, basically. It radically improves. It's a fairly easy weapon to use, very accessible. And it not only is it the best, but it throws the balance of the game on quite a drastic incline. Another example I'll give you is something that's overpowered is for example Meta Knight in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. That character specifically is ridiculously overpowered, ridiculously broken. And I mean, let someone use Meta Knight who's a fairly low skilled player, and then just see how they're much more capable of like pulling off wins or performing certain things. And if they use it to another skilled player, of course they're gonna do even better, of course. Across the board, that character is accepted as overpowered. Or another example of weapon that's overpowered is the pistol from Halo Combat Evolved. I mean, that weapon was so good, I actually hesitated in picking up just about anything that would put that weapon away. It was much better than the assault rifle. I mean, it was honestly easier and pretty much as good as the sniper. I mean, the only thing I'd pick over the pistol is maybe a rocket launcher, but the pistol had more shots. I mean, that's how broken and OP the pistol was in Halo Combat Evolved, for those who played that. The FAL in Uncharted 2, I never really felt like it was like that. Like, I didn't hesitate in picking up power weapons, for example. Whereas in Uncharted 3, the FAL SS, I actually like would pick up a power weapon, use it, and then quickly run towards my FAL SS because I knew it was that good and that disadvantage. I mean, I actually contemplated not like whatever legacying in Uncharted 3 because I didn't want to lose the FAL. It was that good. It wasn't just the best, it was overpowered. So that's kind of like what my take is on what's overpowered and what kind of it means when it's so ridiculously unbalanced in perspective of the rest of the game, and it really like breaks that gap. Like it almost like destroys the gap between like skilled and not skilled players. Whereas if something's the best, like yes, it's the best option, like the best weapon or whatever, character, car, whatever, what have you, but it's not blatantly broken. It doesn't break that like barrier of skill. Another example of something that's not really overpowered, but some people are pretty quick to comment on it is like, for example, the MSMC and the M8A1. I mean, in Black Ops 2, these are pretty popular weapons among the competitive players or the tryhard players. Does that mean they're overpowered? I would say no, because they're not vastly superior to the other weapons in the game. And I don't really see a lot of people picking these weapons up and like instantly performing much better. I mean, if they got to a certain level of skill, yeah, they'd realize it's not only the best weapon in the game for their skill, but they'd also hopefully realize that it's not broken, it's not vastly superior per se. Whereas if it was OP, for example, a game that certainly didn't suffer a shortage of overpowered or broken mechanics, in my opinion, in terms of the Call of Duty series, is Modern Warfare 2, which I consider to be the worst, like, Call of Duty multiplayer I've ever played. That game was so broken and like ridiculous on so many levels, from the perks to the guns. It was a complete disaster balance-wise. I don't even know how anyone could take that game seriously. It was that painfully bad, how broken it was. And like I said, when something's overpowered, it breaks the game and like basically flips it over, puts a tilt on it, like a ridiculous, there's no balance, it's just ridiculous. Whereas if something's the best, I mean, it's better than everything else, but it's not like ridiculously advanced. And I think a lot of people are pretty quick to complain, like, oh, he's using X or Y, and it's like the best weapon in the game, it's overpowered. People are pretty quick to complain, of course, but I'm not sure if they really put a lot of thought into it, or DTI is the overpowered, it's the best, or I don't really think it is, basically. Whereas if you ask me if Situation was overpowered in Uncharted 2, I would say definitely, it's ridiculous. And that's kind of it for this video. Kind of just want to talk about the topic of overpowered versus like the best or what have you in a game. And I'm curious to see your feedback on what you think is overpowered, some examples. Leave your comments below, because I really like to get some back and forth between the people who watch my videos. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.